For almost 15 years, football belonged to two names, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, and almost every football debate eventually came back to those two legends. Yet, throughout that era, there was one player who looked capable of ending their dominance before age ever could, and that player was Neymar Jr. Some people remember Neymar mainly for the injuries that interrupted his career. However, anyone who watched him at his absolute peak witnessed something completely different because they saw a footballer who could make world-class defenders look like academy players while scoring goals, creating chances, entertaining fans, and controlling matches all at the same time. That naturally leads to one question: just how good was Prime Neymar? To answer that, we have to go back long before Barcelona and return to Brazil, where football believed it had discovered its next global superstar. Before Neymar had even played a single minute in European football, he was already carrying enormous expectations. At Santos, he wasn't simply another talented teenager, because he had become the biggest attraction in South American football. He led Santos to their first Copa Libertadores title since the days of Pelé. By that stage, Europe was no longer asking whether Neymar was good enough to succeed there, because the biggest clubs on the continent were competing to sign him. Eventually, Barcelona won that race. Many people believed that joining Barcelona meant Neymar would always have to accept living in Lionel Messi's shadow, and on paper, that assumption made perfect sense. Messi was already the best player in the world. Barcelona revolved around him. Despite all of that, Neymar never looked intimidated. Instead, he became a vital part of one of the greatest attacking trios football has ever seen. With Messi on the right, Suarez leading the line, and Neymar attacking from the left as part of the legendary MSN partnership. Together, they did far more than simply win matches. During the 2014-15 season, the trio combined for an astonishing 122 goals, breaking records while tearing apart some of Europe's strongest defenses. Even within that legendary front three, Neymar consistently produced moments that made fans wonder what would happen if Barcelona eventually became his team. Then came the night that changed everything. Barcelona faced Paris Saint Germain in the Champions League after suffering a crushing 4-0 defeat in the first leg, and almost nobody believed a comeback was possible because they needed to score 6 goals. As the match entered its final minutes, Barcelona still required 3 more goals to complete the impossible, but that was when Neymar completely took over. He curled in a brilliant free kick, calmly converted a penalty under immense pressure, and then, with almost the final kick of the game, delivered the perfect assist for Sergi Roberto to score the winning goal. It remains one of the greatest comebacks in football history. But something even more significant happened that night. Neymar had become the central figure, and his performance felt like the beginning of a completely new era. Instead, it unexpectedly marked the end of one. Only a few months later, football witnessed something nobody had imagined when Paris Saint Germain activated Neymar's €222 million release clause. It wasn't just the biggest transfer in football history at the time, it was almost double the previous world record. PSG weren't simply signing another superstar because they genuinely believed they were bringing in the player who could become the best footballer on the planet. Neymar later explained that he hadn't left Barcelona because he disliked playing alongside Messi. Instead, he wanted to write his own story, lead his own team, and finally compete for a Ballon d'Or as the undisputed main man. Initially, everything appeared to be going exactly as planned because Neymar scored regularly, created countless goals for his teammates, and embarrassed defenders almost every week. His statistics were outstanding, but the quality of his football was even more impressive. Prime Neymar wasn't just one of the world's greatest dribblers, he was arguably the most complete attacking player in football. He could finish like a natural striker, pass with the vision of a midfielder, dribble with the creativity of a street footballer. If Neymar was capable of all that, then why didn't he ultimately become the best player in the world? The answer is far more complicated than simply blaming injuries, although they certainly played a massive role. Timing also worked against him because his prime coincided with two players who were producing arguably the greatest individual careers football has ever seen. Prime Neymar was a dribbler who entertained crowds, goal scorer who consistently scored goals, created chances, won major trophies, decided Champions League matches, and terrified the very best defenders. So, how good was Prime Neymar? He was good enough to become the most expensive player in football history, good enough to inspire one of the greatest comebacks the sport has ever witnessed, and good enough to convince millions of fans that he would eventually replace Messi and Ronaldo at the top of world football. Although he never fully achieved that dream, football was fortunate enough to witness several unforgettable years in which Neymar played with a level of freedom, creativity, and imagination that almost nobody else possessed. If you were lucky enough to watch Prime Neymar during those years, then you didn't simply watch one of the greatest Brazilian footballers of all time, you watched one of the most naturally gifted players the game has ever produced.